is Rob Thompson, Game Plan U today. College athletics, what's next? We all want to know.
Right.
So let's go around the horn. So we're going to start back with you, Ray, and then everybody will have a chance to throw in their color commentary and their comments and their point of view. What are you guys doing to prepare to coming out of this lockout for college sports in the fall?
Well, it's interesting, Rob. This anytime there is disruption, anytime there are challenges, there is also opportunity. And when you are looking at reduced attendance and things of that nature, now all of a sudden schools and conferences have to figure out how to make up the money. So media rights become even more critical, and there has been dramatic acceleration in terms of evaluating new means of monetizing media rights, whether that's pay-per-view models with streaming companies, pay-per-view models with companies like Pluto, media rights deals with Flow Sports or the traditional players. So we've been extraordinarily busy on that side of the house, as well as rethinking sponsorship moving forward. So we're making an opportunity out of a problem.
Yeah, that's good. Larry, how about you? What are you guys doing from that perspective?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because we're a communication operational efficiency platform. So it's been great, especially throughout the pandemic, to be able to serve and help our teams and our departments with their communication, their collaboration, organization, operational efficiency, you name it, just really helping them to stay together when everyone is physically apart. Now that student athletes and staff are returning back to campus, we're helping them to really stay on that same page. And it's interesting. We just had the conversation this morning, how important the academics function is in terms of they're going to be there physically, but are they still going to be e-learning as well as sports medicine? The spotlight for us is on sports med in terms of how do they make sure of the safety of the student athletes and the staff in terms of just how they go about operating. It's not business as usual. There's certainly there's a lot of adjustments that are being made, and we're just trying to stay focused on how do we serve our teams, our departments, so that they can do it safely, but also so they can do it productively. We don't want to go back and it's like, oh, wow, what in the world is going on? So it's been interesting to kind of be at the center of that and helping them to return back to business.
Yeah, good one. How about you, Nick, from the Football Ball Association? I mean, you guys are similar to say a conference, and I know there's a lot of discussion going on of these kids coming back on campus and how that's going to happen. So what are you guys preparing for at the moment?
Yeah, we're an interesting group for a lot of reasons. Yeah, even under normal circumstances, we're, our bowl guys. We have 42 independent businesses. They all have different business models, and I've been preaching to them from the get-go, patience and flexibility. Dating back to April when we had to cancel our annual meeting and we held it virtually and trying to look ahead. My group, probably more so than any other sports group or organization, if you will, has the least say, the least amount of decision-making ability. We're pretty much at the mercy of what the college football regular season ends up looking like, when it starts, when it ends. And to my first point, being prepared to be as flexible as possible. Our number one goal is to find a way to play the games. Our guys are their eggs are all kind of in one basket. There's no mitigation, or maybe it's a shortened season. It's one game. And so there's a lot riding on that, and all the events that they host over the course of the year, the charitable components of their games, rehabbing parks in their communities, all the great things they do in their location really hinge on these games. So, having the games is priority number one. Where, part of my job is to stay in constant contact with all 10 conference commissioners in the NCAA, just to make sure we're in their plans, and to make sure they know that we're prepared to be as flexible as we need to be and as they want us to be, in order to make sure we have the games, number one, and then two, to make sure that we maintain the some level of great experience for the student athletes. We're looking at, we may need to shorten the bowl week, instead of it being 6 days long, so maybe it's 4 days, 3 days, 2 days. So how do you do that, save money, but still maintain the student athlete experience, which is essential to these games. And there's all kinds of things we're looking at to be flexible, but there's, as much as we've learned in the last 3 months, there's still a lot to be learned in the next month. And then when it comes to bowl games, there's a lot to be learned through the football season. So it's a moving target, to say the least.
That's very interesting. It is certainly a moving target. Ray Katz, COO of Collegiate Sports Management Group. Ray, I finally got it right.
All good.
Let's take one. So,
A big title.
Yeah, I know it's
a mouthful.
It is. I just got to get it down to the acronym next time, so I just don't mess anything up.
Mm-hmm.
Ray, talk about, and this is, I'm going to throw you guys a little bit of a bone, but with the pause, did you guys do any pivoting? And I know, it allowed us to kind of look back at our businesses, right? And what are we doing personally? What are we doing professionally in our businesses from a pivoting standpoint? Was there anything you guys discovered about your business during this time that you like, now is the time to try that thing that we've been talking about?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've done a bunch of pivoting. We really love our core business. We've put more emphasis on the esports side of the business, recognizing that that's not the core of this conversation, but it's a way for, in the case of the Horizon League, actually student athletes to continue to hone their competitive juices. And they had an esports tournament specifically for student athletes. So the esports side of our business, where we have the rights to the ECAC and joint venture with the NJCAA, that piece of the business is absolutely blowing up. We also had a chance to really dig into name, image, and likeness, and had a panel on it almost a month ago. So really figured out what our space is going to be in that, as essentially a properties group that we do at the mid-major D2, D3 levels for schools and conferences. Same thing, we believe we can do that for athletes and help create a win-win ecosystem. And the other last thing is strategic relationship. We've looked at a bunch of great companies, including a couple in Australia and Canada, to partner with to deliver even better commercialization opportunities for our clients, both conferences and schools.
Boy, Ahmad from Sports Finder is going to be really, mad that you didn't now, name his company in there. But I'll throw it out there for you.
I appreciate that. I'm trying to be objective about all of our great partners, but Ahmad and Sports Finder are definitely in the top echelon.
Good, Larry. Same thing for you.
That's awesome. So we've stayed focused on our goal and our mission to empower and engage elite athletes, in my case, the student athlete. So when everyone was dispersed, it's like, hey, we offered a free trial, and we had hundreds of teams that took advantage, because they said, hey, we can't have all this confusion of, do I check my email? Is it text? Is it group me? Is it Facebook Messenger? There's so many ways to communicate. They realized that they needed one central resource. So that's been great. We also finalized our acquisition of Influencer, based out of Birmingham, Alabama, which is on the forefront of social media content, branding. I know that Ray just mentioned name, image, likeness. It's been absolutely awesome. I've had the opportunity to work with that team, and the future is bright. When you look at the future of name, image, likeness, and there's still a lot of questions out there, but we're really putting ourselves in a position to be ready. And that's what we've used this time for, is how do we serve our current clients? How do we better serve our future clients? And then just making sure that as we emerge, we're ready to rock and roll.
I got it. Well, I need to call you up every Monday morning just to get me fired up for the week. That's good.
Certainly helped me yesterday.
Yeah, right. That was great, Larry. Thank you. So, Nick, from your side of it, the pivot, I know you're very restricted on because you have a very narrow lane on what your mission is with your role in your association. So were there things that you were forced to do by the 300 something bowl games that there are that you have to manage? Was there things that you were saying, let's think outside the box here a little bit, and guys, we need to think a little bit differently. This year is going to be so different, and we have to be prepared. Were some of those discussions happening about little pivots along the way?
Yes, we were, for sure, and you touched on the challenges of my position. I have I don't really have authority over anyone, but I have a fair amount of influence over a lot of people. I really appreciate all 42 executive directors and how they've pulled together on this. It's in an ideal world, I would like to represent all 42 of them and go to the 10 conference commissioners and say, look, here are our issues. Here's how we need to be structured this year. And let's make the best of it. But like I said earlier, there's 42 independent business models. They're all different. They all derive different percentages of revenue from TV versus ticket sales versus sponsorships. So while one of those three may be more important to one, it may be different for another. So what we have done is we've kind of pulled together as a group. I have a number of subcommittees of the 42, and our research committee pulled together a pretty comprehensive list of all the cost centers that every bowl game has, from payout to ticket commitments to, like I said, a number of hotel nights, student athlete gifts, officiating, you name it, the various events they have, the luncheons. And what we're prepared to present to the commissioners is simply, here's the menu of costs that not only are going to potentially save the bowl money or cost the bowl money, but they will have an impact on your payout as well. And each of the individual bowl games, and when the timing is right, and not sure when that time is. I think once we establish the start of the regular season, that dialogue can occur. But these are kind of the menu of items that are going to be up for discussion or renegotiation, if you will, for this year. And I think the goal we all have is let's get through this year as best we can without mortgaging the future, because once we get through this, and we will get through it, I think we want to minimize the damage and be able to come back, full speed in 2021, 22.
Let's talk about sponsorship. You mentioned it, Nick. Sponsorship and media rights. And I know that this is something, I'm sure there are some really aggressive conversations going on in this space. Ray, from your perspective, what are sponsors and media rights opportunities? What are they asking you guys to do?
Well, our conferences and schools are asking us to figure out ways for them to make more money, to make their MMR rights, whether we represent them or whether we're partnered with a Van Wagner or a Learfield, to think about how we can create more assets. Sponsors are asking for tighter valuation, and that has been in a way forced by the incompletion of the college conference college basketball tournaments. So brands are saying, the MEAC tournament didn't finish, for example. We want to keep the MEAC whole financially, but we need to understand exactly what we lost in terms of impressions and assets, and what can you guys give us to make that up. So there have been really positive conversations as we try to maintain those deals. So from a media rights standpoint, a lot of the commissioners are accelerating their plans and maybe saying, when we're year to year, let's take a step back and, as you said before, let's pivot and let's figure out what's best for the conference in the media environment in 2020.
Good. Larry, from your side of it, is there deeper discussions, and are you being asked by athletic departments to look at other ways to incorporate sponsors into the deeper elements of the student athletes day to day with influencer and teamworks? And is there going to be some collaboration, in those regards?
We're having a ton of discussions right now, because when you think about name, image, likeness, it's multifaceted. So we're hearing discussions around recruiting. How can we leverage this as a recruiting tool and as a differentiator in our offering for essentially elite athletes to come to our institution? You're also hearing a big time focus on personal brand. And Ray and I had this conversation yesterday. You take Zion Williamson out, and it's a different story, but there's still a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of eyeballs that are on student athletes' social media, whether that's their IG, their Twitter, their TikTok. And those opportunities are going to continue to increase and present themselves, especially as they hammer out the guidelines around name, image, likeness, which we're all anxiously awaiting so that we can go ahead and move forward with some solutions and just some excellent opportunities. I think Nick said it before, that this is a great time to seize the opportunity that's presented to us. So we're excited to be right in the mix to help not just the organizations, the departments and the teams, but most importantly, the student athletes. That's our core. Our focus at Teamworks and at Influencer is to make sure that we keep the student athlete at the center of everything that we do.
Ray, with your personality, you could be a TikTok legend if you're not already.
Frightening.
Can I ask you to be in charge of my social media?
We hustle, Nick. Learn the
We're
great.
doing the best we can, but we're up against we got a tall order here.
No, not at all. Come on. I mean, I'm just trying to add value to the ecosystem as you guys do so substantially. Both your businesses.
I've lost all control.
The story of my life.
Yeah, exactly. So, Nick, from your perspective, sponsors and media, is there a plan B? Are you even looking at that right now? Or are you going to cross that bridge when you get to it?
Well, I mean, a little bit of both, because there's still a lot of unknowns. But one of the great things about the FBA is we provide a platform for all 42 games to kind of come together and talk shop, share best practices. They're all kind of in the same boat, to differing degrees. And a lot of the in terms of sponsors, and Ray, you know this better than I do. I mean, every sponsor is different. Every sponsorship package is different. What a sponsor is looking for out of a sponsorship package is different. So, if you're a sponsor that, on-site hospitality at bowl games is really important to you, this is going to be a really tough year. If you're, in-venue signage, if that's really important to you and you depend on the number of people in the seats to see it, this could be a tough year. If you're a title sponsor of a game, maybe not so bad. My gut tells me people are going to have such a thirst for live sports when it comes back. Ratings may be way up, and we've actually seen in the last few weeks three new bowl game title sponsors come on board. So it depends on who you are and where you come from. Sometimes I daydream about the impact of certain things. If the stadiums can only be 25% or 50% capacity, people are still going to want to go. So law of supply and demand tells me that those 25% tickets might be pretty expensive on the secondary ticket market. So, how does that all balance out? It'll be interesting to see.
You guys know, my main job besides, I don't podcast 8 hours a day. I'm in college athletics. I know. Could you believe that?
Surprise.
I'm in college athletics on the fundraising side. So, what I've looked to do and what I've seen our leadership do here, it's a hard time to ask for donations. It's a hard time to ask for new sponsors. It's a hard time because there's so many different uncertainties in a sense, but we decided to go on the offense. We decided to use this time in a positive way to build relationships. And look at it as what can we do to help? What can we do to help other people's businesses, whether it's a connect or whatever? Ray, from your perspective, what have you seen just from the industry, not necessarily maybe that touches your business? And this is the final question for all you guys. What positives have come out of this from a complete recalibration of the industry in a sense?
To me, the biggest positive that's come out of this is it can't be business as usual anymore. Current business models are being questioned, right? Do we want to buy out someone's rights? Does that make sense when things happen that change the value of those rights as opposed to a true partnership model where we're sharing the pain and the pleasure with our clients, whether it's media rights being worth more or sponsorships in some ways, as Nick alluded to, changing. It's forcing colleges and conferences to become social media, or not social media companies, but marketing and media companies. And that's all a good thing. And with NIL on the horizon, it's creating much more meaningful commercial scale and opportunities for the kinds of schools that not just the ones we work with, but outside the Power Five. Many more opportunities to activate a D2, D3, or mid-major sponsorship by also engaging with the athletes in the community. And I think of a school like Stony Brook and the value their athletes have as the only school of over 1 million people in Suffolk County their athletes are celebrities there. So it's going to be great across sports, not just football and men's basketball, but a top women's basketball team, a top women's lacrosse team. Those athletes are going to have opportunities. And I'm sure working hopefully in conjunction with Larry's amazing company, we'll figure it out.
Always plug it. I love it. Larry, what do you think?
I love it. Yeah. So, I mean, you made a great point about relationships. And I mean, I've got a sales trainer who said the difference between contacts and contracts is the letter R. And that R is true, genuine relationships. He also said it's not what you know and it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So for us, the positives have really been the tighter relationships. But even more importantly, I would say the inefficiencies, operational efficiency has improved because they've had to. In the past, when everything is going great, you can kind of get by and let things slide by, sweep it under the rug because we're good. But now this is really forced. COVID-19 has forced all of us to reevaluate why. Why are we doing things the way that we're doing? Why are we not leveraging technology? We don't need to send carrier pigeons and smoke signals and use stone tablets to communicate. Everyone has one of these smartphones. We're not using Blackberries anymore and flip phones for the most part. Why not leverage this to have greater efficiency and just create a better student athlete experience, but also a staff experience and really get everyone on that same page, rocking and rolling. So it's been great to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing it continue because it's not going to stop. We're really being forced to reevaluate and figure out what's the most efficient, the most effective way to conduct our business in order to have success in the future, because what got us here won't get us there in this environment.
Well, there goes my carrier pigeon business that I had an idea for. That's out the window. That was good. Thanks, Larry. Nick, from your perspective, and you've been in the industry a long time in different levels for the Patriots, Division I college, Under Armour, on the conference side. What do you see? I mean, what do you see as the positives that's going to come out of this?
Yeah, I think that, these guys touched on it, just to elaborate a little bit, there are, as you keep chugging along over time under normal circumstances, if you will, you kind of it's easy to get carried away with, the spending of resources, the size of your staff, as Larry said, the way you do things, the way you conduct your business, which just becomes commonplace, and people are resistant to change. And, in the last few months, we've been forced to change. And in some ways, we're like, hey, this not only is this less expensive to do, it's easier to do, and it allows us a lot more flexibility in other avenues. So you think about distant, working from home or virtual communications. Why do people have to get in their car and drive an hour to work every day? I'm a big believer in face-to-face, and I think there needs to be an element of that, but does it have to be every day? Can you lighten the burden and have it be a couple days a week, and then you're working from home and you have 2 hours less commute round trip, and you can be more efficient with your time. Even at the NFL level, I thought the NFL draft was fascinating, watching the coaches and the GMs working from home with their kids participating in it. I mean, that was so exciting for me to see, because I know so many football coaches. I've worked for them, and it's kind of like, if you're not in the office 18 hours a day, you're losing, and sometimes we'd be just sitting there going, what are we doing here? Let's go home. But it's like a badge of honor. You can't do it. And I think even those guys learned, hey, we can be just as efficient, and maybe give a little bit of our time to our families once in a while too.
Yeah. I completely love being home for 3 months with my wife and kids. Being on the road for 30 years, it was the first time I was anchored, and I don't ever want to leave. I don't think I left the house in 3 months. That was fantastic. If I could motorize a recliner, I would have done that. Final thoughts, gentlemen, around the horn. Ray, what's your final thoughts?
Final thought, it's an exciting opportunity. And I love what Larry said about contacts plus relationships equals contracts. And we've been working extremely hard to do that in this time period, both to stay more connected with clients and to reconnect with old colleagues and then to connect with new people. And we've had a great deal of success doing that. So I actually think that the disruption will lead to a way better college athletics business and a way better experience for college athletes moving forward, ultimately.
Great.
Love it, Ray. You're absolutely right. This is an excellent opportunity. And Nick, you said it best in terms of being flexible, being adaptable. I'm excited because with chaos comes opportunity, but also comes creativity. And we're going to see innovation. We are going to see, I mean, Rob, you see it all the time, but I'm starting to get some glimpses of just some of the innovation that's out there that's going to really drive true change and drive true value to the industry of collegiate athletics. It's super exciting. And it's one of those things where you either keep up or you're going to have to get out. We had that conversation earlier that if you're not keeping up with the change, it might be time to find a different route. So I'm just super excited, and the future is bright. It's going to look different, but the future is very bright.
For sure. We've all learned a lot in the last few months. We're going to learn a lot in the next few months. We're going to see some things happen that we never thought we'd see. You know, watching the Masters in November is going to be crazy, and then you're going from that right to a great college football game that same night. I'm kind of looking forward to that. You know, we're going to learn a lot. I think it's just a matter of how do we best get through it. There you go. Can I have those? Can I come with you?
Really? Snake
You
me
showed
out.
them. No, I mean, if we can just find a way to get through this year and keep everybody as whole as possible, I think partnerships. This year is above all else is the year where the word partnership really has to be front and center. Let's work to get partners need to work together to say, look, I'm not going to make as much as I thought I was. I know you're not. Let's just mitigate our losses so that we can survive and come back next year stronger than ever from what we've learned.
Gentlemen, we're right underneath 30 minutes. We got this in on time. I gotta be honest with you. This was really, really fun. You put, three true professionals together and magic could happen. I think you guys just provided unbelievable value for everybody that tuned in. So thank you so much, guys. I from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the friendship and the relationship.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
On behalf of Ray, Larry, Nick, and myself, you're watching Game Playing You today. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you later.
Right.